They said humanity would never reach the stars. They laughed when we crawled from our dying blue cradle and looked up. But we weren't looking for hope. We were looking for something to conquer. This is not the story of peace treaties and diplomatic handshakes. This is not a tale of galactic unity. This is war. This is pride. This is humanity unleashed. The Galactic Council made a grave mistake. They sent a probe to study us. It came back in pieces, scorched, shattered, with a message burned into its hull in 17 different languages. We are coming. And we did. From Luna to Mars, Europa to Alpha Centauri, we spread like wildfire, not because we were the strongest, not because we were the smartest, but because we were the most determined. We are the species that tore gods from the sky and built machines in their place. We are the race that nuked its own atmosphere and called it progress. We are the ones who turned death into day, the pain into propulsion, and extinction into evolution. The first alien fleet that tried to stop us. Gone in 37 seconds. Not because of superior weapons, because of our madness, our will, our refusal to kneel. They called us monsters. They were right, but monsters don't beg. They boldly go. So when the Council begged for peace, when their empires began to crumble under the iron weight of 1 million Terran warships, when their leaders saw Earth's flag planted on their moons, they finally understood. This isn't science fiction anymore. This is human history, and history is written in blood and fire and in one unshakable truth. Humanity, F***ing, wins. **HFY stories. To boldly go. WRickWrites now streaming, where courage meets chaos, where warships eclipse stars, where the only rule left is survive us if you can. Welcome to the new universe made by man, claimed by force. Fire tag a friend who believes humans are the underdogs. Then show them why we never were. They once believed we'd never make it, that we'd burn out long before we ever reached the stars. Just another species, doomed to die on the same world that birthed us. But they didn't understand what we are. We weren't reaching for the stars to find peace. We were reaching because we refused to stay where we're told we belong. This isn't a story about unity or treaties or hope. This is about the fire inside us, the kind that doesn't ask permission, the kind that takes. It started with a probe, just a small one, harmless. Curious, they sent it to study us. It came back in pieces, charred, burned, and branded with a message etched deep into the metal: we are coming. And we did, not with parades, not with welcome flags. We came with ships that blotted out suns, with minds sharpened by centuries of survival, with hearts that had forgotten how to be afraid. We didn't have the most advanced tech. We weren't the most gifted, the most graceful. But we were relentless. We were hungry. And we had something no one else did: the madness to dream beyond limits, and the rage to tear through anything that stood in our way. The first alien fleet that tried to stop us never stood a chance. It wasn't just our weapons, it was our will. That deep, brutal, unstoppable will. To endure, to win. They called us monsters, and maybe they were right. But monsters don't ask for seats at the table. They flip the table. They build their own empire. So when the Council begged for peace, when their worlds trembled under the weight of our arrival, when they finally saw our flag on their moons and our boots in their cities, they understood. This isn't fiction. This is how history gets written, by those bold enough to carve it out of chaos. And we were born for chaos. To boldly go. It's not a phrase. It's a warning. Because when humans come knocking on the stars, we don't knock gently. Let me know if you want it formatted for voiceover, trailer script, or opening scene. 1. Humanity never asked for permission. We took the stars. A viral truth that captures the aggressive, unstoppable spirit of mankind in the galaxy. It flips the narrative from underdogs to conquerors. 2. We are coming, the message that changed the galaxy, a cinematic hook, simple, chilling, unforgettable, instant meme and merch potential. Audiences love repeated catchphrases. 3. We didn't have the best tech. We had the most will. Virally emotional, viewers relate deeply to grit over privilege. It's about fighting, not perfection. 4. Peace wasn't the mission, dominance was. Delivers a twist. Everyone expects unity in space. We gave them conquest. Bold and unique. 5. First Contact didn't end in peace talks. It ended in ashes, massively cinematic, shock value, perfect for dramatic trailers, reaction videos, and story retellings. 6. We were never the monsters. We were the mirror, psychologically resonant, makes people reflect. This line hits deep and elevates the story beyond action. 7. The stars didn't welcome us. We took them screaming. Perfect short form shock line. Emotional and violent in one stroke, viral as a 3-second voiceover. 8. History isn't written by the victors, it's written by the survivors, and we survive everything, heavy, haunting, and real. This is the heart of HFY and will explode on motivation-based platforms. 9. We don't knock gently, we knock everything down. The finale punch, memorable, TikTok caption gold, trailer ending line with explosion visuals. 10. This is not fiction. This is how history gets made. Great for narration, titles, and intro hooks. The ultimate HFY reframe. This feels real. Let me know if you'd like this transformed into a script for a viral video, YouTube short, or trailer, with sound effect cues and pacing. They told us the stars were not ours, that we should look, dream, even hope, but never touch. They said there were rules, laws older than our kind, etched into the fabric of the galaxy by civilizations far more ancient and wise. They warned us that to cross those lines would be suicide, that the stars were not a place for something as reckless, as chaotic, as humanity. But that's the thing about telling a human no. It never ends where you think it will. We didn't ask for permission, we never have. From the moment we crawled out of caves and lifted our eyes to the night sky, we weren't looking for answers. We were looking for something to claim, something to burn, something to bend. The stars weren't sacred to us. They were a challenge, and we never backed down from a challenge. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. They watched us from afar like scientists observing a virus under glass. Fascinated but wary. A species that clawed its way to the top of a brutal planet, that mastered fire, then metal, then atoms, then space. A species that turned war into progress and ruin into evolution. They thought we'd die off, implode, or best case, stay leashed to that little blue planet we call home. But humanity has never been good at staying leashed. When our first ships broke the grip of Earth's atmosphere, they weren't graceful. They were loud, unstable, messy, like everything we make. But they worked, because that's what we do. We make things work even when they shouldn't. We survive places no one should survive. We thrive in chaos. We grow in darkness. And when we want something, we don't stop. Our probes reached further. Our colonies grew. Then came the jump drives. Then came the warships. We were no longer guests in the void. We were residents. And we brought with us every part of what makes us human, our ambition, our brutality, our brilliance, and our stubborn, relentless drive to expand. They tried to stop us, quietly at first, a warning here, a blockade there. They thought we would scare easily, that we were still the creatures from Earth's past, prone to fear, eager for approval. But the only thing that scares humanity is the idea of standing still. We didn't back down, we pushed harder. They saw it then. not just our strength, but our nature, that terrifying, beautiful thing that defines us. We weren't explorers. We were invaders, not because we hated them, not because we wanted destruction, but because everything out there was a line we weren't supposed to cross. And that was reason enough. They sent a message, we ignored it. They sent a fleet, we obliterated it, not because we wanted war, but because we refused to be caged. And when they finally asked us why we did it, why we kept expanding, kept fighting, kept taking, our answer was simple. We never asked for permission. We took the stars, because no one gives humans anything. Not peace, not power, not a place in the galaxy. We take what we need. We carve it out of stone and steel and fire. We bleed for it. We build empires out of ashes. And when the stars told us we didn't belong, we didn't protest. We conquered. They call us dangerous, violent, unstable. They're right. But we're also curious, creative, determined beyond reason. We feel more, fight harder, and break faster than any species that's ever lived. We love so deeply we start wars. We hate so fully we end them. And in between, we build miracles. So when the council fell, when the empires crumbled, when the stars themselves seemed to whisper our name with fear and awe, it wasn't because we were the strongest. It was because we never stopped moving forward, no matter the cost, no matter the odds, because that's what it means to be human. We don't wait, we boldly go, and we never ask for permission, we take it. Viral line. They told us the stars weren't ours, so we took them. It started as a whisper, not in sound, but in motion. A ripple that moved across systems in the outer rim, subtle at first. A few missing patrols. A trade route gone silent. One satellite array, then two. Then all of them, gone, vanished into static. The council thought it was a storm, a spatial anomaly, another one of nature's strange moods. They didn't know the storm had a name. Humanity, and it wasn't coming by accident. You see, there was a moment, a single moment, that the galaxy never recovered from. One probe, one decision, one message. They had sent it as a precaution. A sleek, gliding piece of tech, equipped with all the sensors and protocols of peaceful contact. Something sterile, something safe. It moved into Earth's orbit cloaked, observing everything. It saw our cities, our oceans, our wars, our music, our ruins, our rockets. It recorded the strange poetry of a species that builds machines to kill and monuments to remember. And then it saw us seeing it. The probe didn't make it back, not intact anyway. What the council received was a shattered Reckitt's panels torn open, blackened with plasma burns, wires twisted like snapped nerves. But what chilled them was the message, burned deep into its outer shell, carved in 17 languages, some ancient, some still evolving, scrawled with heat and fire like it had been branded with intent. We are coming, that was it. No demands, no introductions, just a promise. They didn't understand it then. They thought it was bluster, primitive intimidation, a desperate cry from a dying world trying to matter in the vast cold of the stars. But they were wrong. It was declaration. That phrase traveled faster than the probe ever could. Systems panicked, commanders argued, diplomats pleaded, and still, more silence followed, more missing signals. Entire listening posts erased without a trace, not with elegance, not with advanced alien tech, with raw force, the kind of force that doesn't finesse its way through problems, it shatters them. When the first human fleet broke through the Centauri gate, they weren't what the galaxy expected. Not graceful ships shaped by millennia of culture and tradition, no curves, no light, song engines, just blunt, brutal geometry, steel, plasma, fire, like someone had taken an iron fist and hurled it into the void. They didn't broadcast a message, They were the message. Everything we are was written in those ships. Every war we'd fought, every city we'd rebuilt, every loss, every victory, every stubborn, impossible refusal to die. And still, some held on to hope. They said humanity might come to negotiate, to talk, to learn. But the moment they saw the probe, scorched and still whispering its warning, they knew. There was no treaty on its way. There was only the inevitable. We were coming, not as guests, but as a force of nature. They tried to meet us with fleets. They tried diplomacy. They even tried to run. But humans didn't come for conversation. We came to answer something older than fear, deeper than reason. A drive not to coexist, but to claim, because we had seen the stars, and we knew one thing. They belonged to whoever had the strength to take them. And when they asked why we would burn across worlds like wildfire, why we would tear down legacies, topple empires, silence centuries of peace, they never understood that probe, that message. That wasn't a threat. It was a gift, a single sentence to warn them of the most human thing of all. Once we move, we don't stop. We are the species that outlived ice ages, plagues, and our own madness. We are the children of war and the parents of invention. We are not the most perfect creation, but we are the most relentless. And in the silence of space, where cold logic once ruled humanity, brought something alien to the stars' emotion. Memory, wrath, wonder, we carved it into steel, into our ships, into that first broken probe. We are coming. It wasn't meant to scare them. It was simply the truth. They underestimated us. Not because we were weak, but because we were human. In their eyes we were chaotic, inefficient, primitive in design. Our ships, crude, loud, full of redundancies. Our code, sloppy, brutalist, full of fail. Safes and firewalls written in panic rather than elegance. Our machines didn't glide, they growled. Our armor didn't shimmer, it clanked. And our weapons didn't whisper. They screamed to the galactic elite. That was all they needed to see. They assumed superiority was found in beauty, in minimalism, in a million years of refinement. But that's not how you survive Earth. See, the galaxy evolved in comfort, in long arcs of peace and patience. They built crystal palaces in gas clouds and thought that made them immortal. But we crawled through hell to make it here. We built civilizations between extinction events. We invented language under meteor showers. We created gods just to scream at the void. And when those gods stayed silent, we became our own. That's why we didn't build perfect machines. We built resilient ones, things that broke, then got back up, that failed, then got smarter, just like us, because humans don't endure through elegance. We endure through will. You could see it in our colonies. In the barren rocks, we turned into cities. In the frozen moons, we lit with stolen suns. Every environment we touched, we reshaped. Not carefully, but relentlessly. With every new place we claimed, we didn't ask how. We asked how fast. So when we arrived with our clunky warships, and our dense languages, and our bizarre biology, they mocked us. And then we started winning. Because while their ships operated on thought, ours ran on instinct. While their weapons required alignment, ours just needed a target. And while their soldiers were grown in vats for perfection, ours were born in pain, raised in loss, driven by something no lab could replicate, a reason to fight. That's what they didn't understand. Our technology was never our strength. It was our rage, our memory, our unyielding, bone, deep refusal to ever be second again. Because on Earth, the weak don't get a warning. You either adapt or you get buried. So when our soldiers hit the ground, they didn't rely on perfect orders or seamless links to a command AI. They relied on something older, something stronger, grit, brotherhood, a promise to never leave one of our own behind. We bled together, we failed together, and when we got back up, We got up angrier. The Council's elite fleets didn't know what to do with that. Their simulations didn't account for enemies who advanced through wounds, who laughed mid-battle, who turned every loss into fuel. For them, defeat meant retreat. For us, it just meant we hadn't won yet. Because while they believed in destiny, we believed in choice, and we chose to keep going, through wreckage, through vacuum, through absolute hopelessness. We chose to outlast them. That's why they lost. Not because we outgunned them, but because they broke first. They relied on precision, on balance, on everything working as it was designed. We relied on heart, on rage, on everything falling apart, and still pushing forward anyway. That's what makes us human. We don't win because we're better. We win because we never stop coming. It didn't matter that our ships were outdated, that our systems overloaded, that our hulls cracked. Because while theirs were programmed to retreat, ours were wired to continue, to adapt, to rage, to win. We don't know how to stop. It's not in our code. It's in our blood. And when the last battle was fought, when our fleets hovered over shattered council worlds, when the stars fell silent and the smoke cleared, they finally saw it. Not machines, not monsters, not invaders. Well, unbreakable, untamable, humanity in its purest form, not the strongest, not the smartest, just the last ones standing. Because our strength was never in our tools, it was in our refusal to be broken. From the beginning, they misunderstood us. They assumed we came seeking peace, that we were just another young species desperate for validation, looking to shake hands with the stars and find a seat among the ancient ones. They thought we wanted to belong, that we needed acceptance, but peace was never the mission. We didn't leave Earth looking for harmony. We left because we outgrew the cage, because every inch of our home had already been conquered, rebuilt, rewritten. Because we're not a species that waits politely at the door. We kick it in. From the start, this was never about coexistence. It was about claiming, about answering the only question that's ever mattered to us. What's next? When we looked up at the stars, we didn't see mystery. We saw territory. Our explorers didn't go out to understand. They went out to plant flags, to chart paths in fire, to leave behind maps drawn in blood. Every world we touched became proof of our nature. Not gentle, not careful, not clean, but ours. The galaxy hoped we'd learn their ways, their diplomacy, their delicate balances. They wanted us to evolve into something civilized, but we weren't interested in evolution. We were interested in expansion, because peace is what you offer when you're afraid to lose something. And we had already lost everything, again and again through wars, famine, plagues, and our own mistakes. We had nothing left to fear, so we didn't come to talk. We came to dominate. We came to write our name across the galaxy in a language everyone would understand. Power. The first species to stand in our way was obliterated before they even sent a response. The second tried to negotiate. We took their planet without firing a shot, because we had already hacked their skies. By the third, there were no more words, just silence, just surrender. We weren't evil. We were inevitable. They called us conquerors. Fine. They called us warmongers. So be it. They called us dangerous. We agreed. But what they failed to grasp was that dominance wasn't a byproduct of our expansion. It was the intention, because humans don't explore to find friends. We explore to replace boundaries with footprints, to take what no one thought could be taken, to rise again and again until even the stars feel small. We're not built for balance. We're built to tip the scales. Every time we found a council beacon, we didn't answer its call. We buried it. Every time we entered a new system, we didn't study it. We rewrote it. Not to erase their culture, but to make room for ours. And when they asked, trembling, why, why we were tearing through systems, rewriting borders, reshaping everything they held sacred. Our answer was simple: because we can. Because the stars aren't inherited. They're earned, and no one has ever earned them like us. We don't believe in equal ground. We build our ground higher than anyone else's and dare the universe to pull us down. So no, peace wasn't the goal. Peace is what comes after the fires burn out, after the resistance breaks, after every throne that tried to stand above us has been crushed to dust beneath our boots. Only then, maybe, we'll talk. But until then, know this: we came not to share the stars but to own them. First contact. In their stories, it was always a moment of wonder, a spark of hope. The day new worlds came together, language barriers fell, and peace became possible. They had paintings of it, songs, myths, a sacred moment, when the unknown became a friend. But when they met us, it didn't happen like that. There was no gentle arrival, no white flags, no slow unfolding of culture across the stars, because when humanity made contact, we didn't bring greetings, we brought wreckage. The first time we saw one of their ships, shining, perfect, older than anything we'd ever built, we didn't reach for a translator. We reached for weapons, not out of hatred, not even fear, but instinct. A deep, bone-cut truth passed through every generation of our kind. If it stands in your way, remove it. They came with symbols, peace signals etched into their hulls, lights blinking in non-threatening patterns designed to soothe. We responded with missiles, 3 of them, fast, brutal, unapologetic. Their ship went dark before the second even hit. By the third, there was no ship left. To them, it was unthinkable. They had been reaching out to younger civilizations for thousands of years, guiding, teaching, slowly bringing others into their fold. They thought we would be the same, another eager child species ready to kneel and learn. But humans don't kneel, and we don't wait for permission. To us, that first ship wasn't an invitation. It was a test, a challenge, and we don't fail challenges. We overwhelm them. When the council received the distress call, it wasn't full of screams. It was silent, no cries for help, just static, and a radar image of a fleet that shouldn't have existed. Dozens of ships, ugly, blackened, patched with old Earth scrap and new alien metal, moving like sharks. Silent, organized, predatory, the Terran vanguard had arrived, not to talk, but to strike. They scrambled to respond, tried to open channels, identify yourselves, stand down, state your intentions. But humans don't state intentions. We show them the first contact site, gone, scorched, glassed, the air turned to poison, the land to ash, the stars above still lit, but the world below, dead, and from the wreckage, a signal, brief, cold, inevitable: we are here. The galaxy recoiled. It had seen violence before, wars over borders, resources, pride. But this wasn't war. It was arrival. Because for humans, there is no ceremony when we enter a space that isn't ours. We don't observe customs. We don't adapt to the local way. We rewrite it. The ones who survived that first massacre didn't speak of weapons or numbers. They spoke of faces, human faces, young, scarred, grinning like wolves, soldiers who looked more like survivors, commanders who had lived through extinction events and came out the other side colder, smarter, hungrier. They didn't come to make history. They came to erase someone else's. From that day forward, first contact had a new meaning. No more peaceful greetings, no more welcome committees. Now it meant smoke in the skies, boots on the ground, flags driven into alien soil. The council tried to recover, tried to believe it was a misunderstanding, a rogue faction, a mistake, but it wasn't, because then came the second contact, then the third, the fifth, the 10th. Every time the result was the same. Diplomacy was met with silence. Warnings were met with orbital strikes. Surrender was met with chains, and always, always, fire followed, because humanity doesn't seek balance. We seek dominance, and when we make contact, it's not to talk, it's to take. They had their chance. They reached out with open arms, and we tore them off, not out of cruelty, not out of evil, out of design. This is who we are, the species that burned its own sky, that fought itself for millennia until only the strongest, cleverest, maddest survived. We don't thrive in peace, we ignite in war. So no, first contact wasn't a beginning. It was an ending, not of hope but of naivety. And as the stars watched and the fleets fell, and world after world turned to black glass and twisted metal, the galaxy finally understood humanity wasn't reaching out to find its place. We had already taken it. They called us monsters, whispered it across dying frequencies, etched it in emergency transmissions as their ships were torn open and their cities were reduced to embers. The word echoed louder than our weapons. Monster, the name they gave us when they didn't understand what they were really seeing. But we weren't monsters. Not really. We were something far worse. We were the truth, because monsters are fiction. They're the stories told to children so they don't wander into the dark. But humanity, we are the dark, not because we enjoy it, not because we seek pain, but because we were born in it, shaped by it, made stronger through it. When they looked at us, they didn't see aliens. They saw something familiar, too familiar. That's what frightened them. We didn't behave like the others. We didn't bow. We didn't beg. We didn't try to impress them with art or language or elegance. We showed up with fire in our eyes and ash on our boots. We didn't ask them to see us. We forced them to. They saw what we had become, and it terrified them, because beneath their 1,000-year peace, their cultured layers of diplomacy and higher thought, they had forgotten what survival really looks like. They had forgotten the cost of civilization, forgotten that they once burned their own worlds too, that they once erased their rivals, that their empires were built not on kindness, but conquest. But we hadn't forgotten. We had just never stopped. So when they watched us wipe out fleets, silence worlds, and rebuild them in our image, it wasn't our brutality that shook them. It was the recognition. We were the reflection they'd buried for centuries, the version of themselves they'd locked away behind fragile peace treaties and soft-spoken alliances. We were everything they had tried to outgrow and failed. Because you don't evolve beyond your nature, you just hide it until someone, something, drags it back out. That was us. We didn't come to be their monsters. We came to be their mirror, to show them that the things they feared still lived inside them. That the galaxy wasn't a place for perfection, but for power, and that peace was just the space between wars. They hated us for it, not because we were evil, but because we were honest. Every time a council elder stared at a burning capital, every time a philosopher tried to explain our rage, our resilience, our unwillingness to submit, they realized the lie at the center of their world. They weren't better than us. They were just further from the fire. They had built palaces out of time, not virtue. We had simply reminded them what the beginning of empire really looked like. It wasn't diplomacy. It was a blade. So no, we weren't monsters. We didn't slither out of shadows or rise from nightmares. We were their own story, starting over, and we carried all the scars of every failed version of it. When they watched humans fight, raw, unfiltered, without hesitation, they didn't see savagery. They saw the price of survival. They saw children of Earth, battered by their own history, standing unafraid before the stars. They saw the hunger in our eyes, the sorrow in our silence, the fury in our advance, and they realized we weren't new. We were familiar. We were the part of civilization they buried, hoping it would stay dead. But nothing stays dead when we arrive. We dig it up. We bring it back. We force it to speak, not because we want destruction, but because we never stopped telling the truth that peace is fragile, that safety is an illusion, that life is not guaranteed, and that survival demands teeth. We brought that truth to every world we touched, not in speeches, but in action. And as their skies turned black with our arrival, they remembered the hunger, the struggle, the chaos. They remembered themselves. We were not the monsters under their beds. We were the reflection in their polished glass, the one they pretended not to see, the one they turned away from, the one that stared back anyway. And when they asked us, in broken voices and scorched voices, why had we come with so much fury, we didn't answer with cruelty. We just held up the mirror.